All right. All right. All right. All right. We are live. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is good to see everybody on this beautiful Thursday, September the 18th. I hope all of you are doing as well and as healthy and wise and well rested as I am. I'm looking forward to today's episode. I hope all of you are doing good. I would love to see where you guys are tuning in from. I love to see that. We have a little bit of a later episode today, so let's go ahead. I'm going to retweet everything, and then we'll get right into it. All right, let's see. Let me go retweet this stuff, and then we will get into it, boys and gals. If there's any of you in here, but I doubt it. This is a boys-only club. All right. Got my live stream up on Telegram. Let's see. Cork, Ireland, beautiful. Halifax, Nova Scotia, beautiful. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, beautiful. Evening, Temmie. I live in hell, Alex. We got to get you out of there, brother. Continuity of clown show. That is true. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot about what Trump has been up to, what he's been saying. He made some public statements today. We got a lot going on. New Swabia, Antarctica. Fucking lit, dude. Clark County, Houston, Chile. Beautiful. Beautiful, everybody. Beautiful. Okay. All right, guys. So we got 1 a.m. in Dubai. We got a lot to talk about today. There's a few map updates that I want to go over just because they are highly important to what's going on in on the front lines. So we are gonna cover a little bit of that. We also are going to cover the recent statements by Donald Trump in Great Britain, where he talked with Keir Starmer about the war in Ukraine and some other geopolitical interests of both of those nations. So we are going to look at that. We also are going to talk about Venezuela a little bit. There was another event that happened immediately after I was talking about the previous event. So we are going to talk about that. We also have a little bit of Thailand news, Thailand, Cambodia, Southeast Asia. So we are going to cover that a little bit and a little bit of Gaza news. So we got a lot going on. Guys, I don't know how to turn ads off. It says 2 ads already. I don't want ads running during my live stream. I do not want you guys to get behind. I don't know how to turn that off. I have my monetization settings as entering mid-rolls, or entering advertisements basically manually, because YouTube wants to do like advertisements every 4 minutes on my videos. It's cancer. So I apologize for that. Did not mean to give you guys ads already. If you guys are new here, please subscribe. I don't know what's been going on, but my videos are just getting seen by less and less people lately. My live streams are doing well, but the video after that hasn't been doing as good. So I don't know if it's just an algorithm thing, or maybe people just don't want to listen to me anymore, which is totally fine. But guys, don't forget to like and comment as well. If you are old here, I know you would have done that already. So, all right. No ads here. No ads here. Okay. Cool. I truly do not want this to be about money at all. This has always just been about information. I want it to be accessible. I don't put anything behind a paywall. I want everything to be free and available to you guys. So please don't put the ad nonsense on me. I don't mean to do that. Can you speak on the Ukrainian strikes on infrastructure in Russia? Yes, I will. I can talk about that. And we can actually talk about that while we look at the map. So we'll do 2 birds, 1 stone here. So let's go over to the map real quick. I'm not going to go through all of the updates. You guys are more than welcome to go over to my map and check it out if you would like. But coming over to the map, let me make sure you guys all can see. We do have some advances that I do want you guys to particularly take note of and watch these areas. This entire front here from the Vovocha River, you can see that there's the Vovocha River up here, runs through this area. kind of the Russians are already along the Vovocha River here and up through this area. Everything from Sosnivka down to Poltavka in the direction of Hulie-Polie. This entire front is incredibly weak, and it is not going to be seeing rotation. The 3rd Azov Brigade, the 3rd Army Corps, if you would, is what it's called now, which is just Azov, has now been sent to the Kupiansk sector. So we will talk about this. The Kupiansk sector has been experiencing some serious issues. The Russians are in the city. They control about 50% of the city, with another large chunk in the gray zone. Russians are operating in different areas. Ukrainians are operating in different areas. The 3rd Azov Brigade has now been rotated up to this front to stabilize the situation. If you guys remember previously, the 12th Azov, not the 3rd, a separate unit, was sent to the Pokrovsk direction to stabilize this Russian advance in this direction, which they ended up doing. And we talked about that, this area being the max extent of Russian logistics, whereas the Ukrainians are able to stage an attack out of Dorbopila. It's much harder to hold this area, especially when most of the gains were done with DRG movements, and then the Russians just ended up holding it. So this is where the 12th went. They are still there fighting and holding that front. The 3rd was moved from this area where they were attacking in Novi Mir towards Novomikhailivka here and trying to hold the entire Liman front in this area. They have now been moved up to the Kupiansk front to try to hold this pocket and Kupiansk itself. It's far too late. I don't know why they're moving them now, but what we should be looking for now is increased Russian movement in the Liman direction, which we are in fact seeing. And my prediction now is that I did make this prediction the last time we were in here, I believe, where I showed the Oskil line and where I expect everything to sort of settle out here as this front begins to close off in these two pockets. Particular, the front will level along the Oskil River around this line, but then down here we're going to follow the Severodonetsk River, which comes back behind Liman. You can see how difficult it's going to be to hold this area for the Ukrainians. They have to do serious water crossings. They're walking through like heavily marshed areas, swampy delta sort of areas to hold Liman. Liman is already in the low ground, which we talked about, and I will show you in just a second. Stavki is on the high ground here. So the Russians are very close to controlling the dominant high ground over Liman. And then as we come down here, you can see how this entire section of the front affects the Siversk front, which is now almost into a critical position. So we do have two predictions here. This one follows almost exactly what this one is. So I'm just going to remove the pink one. The pink one follows the Bakhmutivka River. Things have now changed since I did that prediction. The Russians have captured the entirety of this forest up here, so it's okay to remove that one because now the prediction has gotten much bigger in my personal opinion. And as we come to this section of the front, you can see that the Russians have advanced in between Dronivka and Yampel in this, again, forest marshy area. That is going to be critical for maintaining the Siversk front, but most importantly, maintaining the northern flank of the Siversk front. Not so much the southern flank. There's still a logistics route that comes through the south from Liman, through Zakatine, and then into Siversk, which, again, the Russians are very close to. The Russians are also in Yampel. We just don't have geolocations yet. If they are able to reach this road, logistics to the entire Siversk front becomes very tight. There are alternative smaller roads that come through this territory over here, but nothing as significant as the roads that are being lost from Liman. It's going to make, like I said, it's just going to make the entire Siversk front harder to hold. And specifically, as Dronivka gets pressured here and the Russians really open up into this space back behind Siversk, it's going to make holding the northern flank very difficult. Once the northern flank falls, holding Siversk itself is going to be difficult, and then the entire front should level out around the Bakhmutivka River as the Ukrainians will still maintain the high ground back behind said river. Let me move this over here. We got a question. Okay, the Venezuela, Alex, thank you for your question. I'm going to get to this in just a second when we start talking about Venezuela. I appreciate you your question though. All right. So this is the current ongoing situation, and this is the other area of the front you guys really need to watch. So the southern Zaporozhye, Dnipropetrovsk region where the Russians are advancing, and then down here in the Liman area. Since the 3rd Azov Brigade was sent to Kupiansk, I would expect less movement in this section of the front, depending on how well the brigade is able to stabilize the area. All right. Okay, so those are sort of the updates today. Like, again, as I said, I do my updates now in a separate video that I just post on my page. So as the updates are available and there's enough of them to make some content out of, I will make a separate video. The most recent one was posted with my last live stream, I believe, on Monday, and you can go find that in my videos section. So if you guys wanted to check that out. All right, I guess we can talk about Venezuela. We're on it, and we got a question for it. So what do you think about Venezuela USA war? Did you see Rurum's recent post? They just doxed the entire bunker site of Murdo. No, I don't think. I'm sorry, guys. I don't think anybody is revealing any secret information about anybody. The U.S. military knows exactly where anything is. So I highly doubt, this is actual information. This just kind of seems like information warfare sort of stuff. Same thing they do with the Russians. Same thing they do with the Iranians and stuff. They pretend like they don't know where a base is or something, where a nuclear weapons production facility could potentially be. You're telling me that the U.S. doesn't know? I mean, it's a load of crap. But no, when we're talking about what do I think about a U.S.-Venezuela war, I think that we're posturing. We're in the position to directly intervene and force regime change if we so wish. We are currently doing very provocative things, like basically extrajudiciously killing people in international waters that really pose no direct threat to the United States. This is a major issue. I talked about it in my last stream. Previously we had seen a strike on a narco boat, which I'm not here to defend narco drug smugglers. I'm not. That's not what I'm going to do. I just think it's a very slippery slope to start executing people in the open ocean when they present no threat to American citizens. It's sort of like the whole. It's not really dangerous to be a Jew unless Israel is doing things that make it dangerous. You know what I mean? It's like the only people who are making anti-Semitism rise are the Israelis for doing what they're doing, sort of deal. So I think that there is a high potentiality for a conflict. I think that Venezuela controls oil in the Western Hemisphere, and that's a problem for the United States. I think Venezuela is very friendly with Russia and China on the Western Hemisphere. I think that's a huge problem for the United States. And we're just using this war on drugs nonsense to perpetuate regime change in South America. And again, most recently, let me see if I can go find it. We had a strike on another narco boat, whether it is or isn't, it doesn't really matter. It's not the point. The point is that the U.S. military is just killing people when they have the means to, intercept them, which we've seen. They did it with a fishing vessel. I guess they decided that they just couldn't, slaughter fishermen like they did off the North Korean coast. They decided that this time they needed to board the ship. I showed you that on the last episode. And then I will show you guys this now. There you go. This is the most recent strike on another boat. not going anywhere. It doesn't really look like it's causing too many issues. I don't think this boat is a direct threat to the United States, and it's gone, and everybody on board is dead. So, it's not that I weep for criminals and people that are doing immoral things. Whatever your argument is for the defense of what the U.S. is doing currently, it doesn't hold water for me at all. This is just straight up murder, extrajudicial murder. If you captured those people and took them to the United States and tried them for the crimes that they are guilty of committing, they would not get the death penalty. So, to me, that's where I sit. I think this is a crime. I think that the White House should be embarrassed for this action. It's pathetic, really, is what it is. If you're going to go regime change, just go regime change. The world is different. Nobody cares anymore. The government doesn't care about what the people think. The government is going to do this administration, every administration is going to do whatever they want to do. And again, this is literally the title of this stream, is continuity of agenda. Trump openly today talked about all of the wars he has prevented since he's been in office. India, Pakistan, which I don't even know what the U.S. has to do with that. They brokered a peace deal. It's a joke. That's a joke. And then he gets up and he gives one of these, which I think is pretty telling of maybe the mental state of our president, but also his just general knowledge of the situation and what's going on. This guy thinks that he ended a conflict between a Balkan country and a country in the Caucasus region. So we are going to open that up and listen to president talk about Azerbaijan.
To think that we settled Azerbaijan and the fact that one's not settled. To think that we settled Azerbaijan and Albania as an example. It was going on for years. It was never going to be settled.
And Albania. I settled the war between Azerbaijan mustard and Albania.
When they were in my office, we settled.
It's crazy, dude. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
We settled Azerbaijan and
it
was going on
Albania.
For years.
It's the best, dude. It's the best. Sorry, dog's barking. Dog's barking. How did he make this mistake twice? Because he's a retarded idiot. What do you mean? What do you think is the reason why he made the mistake twice? Hey, be quiet. Dogs being crazy. All right. So, yeah, just to finish up your question, what do I think about the Venezuela US war? I think that it can very easily be prevented. I think that the Venezuelans are acting very provocatively, and I think that is probably the best chance they have of deterring the United States is making it seem like they're actually ready and willing to fight, and that regime change is not just going to be some pushover situation. Iran has not seen the regime change yet. I still believe that it's coming. I think that it's more of a degradation process with Iran. You just got to slowly wear them down. Years of war, on and off strikes by Israel, assassinations, just keep wearing them down. Eventually, regime change is going to come to that area, just like it did in Syria. And I think that is the U.S. goal in a bunch of different areas, and that does not exclude Venezuela in the least. So it's one of those things where if it's been decided, it's been decided, and there's no turning back. I think that the deployments to the region are worrisome, But I'm going to read this article actually that talks about how Venezuela is responding. And I think that it might be one of the best ways that they can respond. So Venezuela starts days of military and electronic warfare drills after U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats. Venezuela says it has begun 3 days of military exercises on its Caribbean island of La Orchilla as tensions soar amid U.S. military activity in the region. Forces deployed for what Washington called an anti-drug operation have blown up at least 2 Venezuelan boats and a combined 14 people allegedly transporting drugs across the Caribbean this month. A move slammed by the UN experts as extrajudicial execution. Okay, so I haven't read that yet. That's actually very refreshing that they're using the same words that I am. Extrajudicial killings. I hadn't read this article all the way down to that point yet. To see that, but that is very interesting. Extrajudicial executions. Yeah, that's exactly what I called them. So I agree with the UN, which is a little concerning, but they are. That's exactly what they are. You can't describe them any other way, because even the crimes that they're guilty of committing are not crimes that are punishable by death. So you're just killing people because you want to kill them. That's the whole thing, and that's a war crime. So let's continue reading. The strikes and deployments of U.S. warships in the region have raised fears of an invasion in Venezuela, whose president, Nicolas Maduro, has been accused by Washington of being a cartel leader. In May, they accused him of being a cartel leader. He was not a cartel leader before that. Now he is a cartel leader. And not only is he a cartel leader, but we also have a $50 million bounty on his head. So, like I said, boys, I'm creating a team. I'm putting a team together. And if you're in, I need to get some DM information, okay? We're going to go down on Zodiac boats. We're going to ride in. We're going to land. It's going to be so sick. We're going to have a film crew. Whole thing's going to be documented, and everybody gets to write a book when they're done with it. So keep in mind. I'll get to your question in just a second. I'm going to finish up with the Venezuela stuff. The exercises ordered by Maduro as commander-in-chief was baptized Sovereign Caribbean, said the defense minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, who I believe also has a bounty out for his head. There will be air defense deployments with armed drones, surveillance drones, submarine drones. We are going to implement electronic warfare actions, he said on Tuesday, citing the threatening vulgar voice of the U.S. So Venezuela is digging in their heels, as I expected them to. It's you know, I think that the only way that you can defeat the U.S. at this point is by standing up to them. And while it might not have the desired effect on your individual nation, you know, Venezuela might not come out on top from that. There is no negotiating with the U.S. The U.S. is going to do whatever they want, and they're going to kill whoever they need to and push anybody they want to out of the way to achieve those goals. That's what the U.S. is going to do. We've seen it time and time again. And is the U.S. through Israel as its conduit, we've you know, that is an extension of the United States. Israel did inform Donald Trump of the strike on Qatar before it happened. Donald Trump did not alert the you know, Qatari leadership to the fact that this strike was going to occur. And then it occurred, and then he said it was an unfortunate mistake that nobody was alerted in time. So again, this is not, you know, it's not, Israel is not in, you know, people get this like idea that Israel is in control of our government. Yeah, but so is our government in control of Israel in the same way, where, you know, they all want the same thing. It's not what's good for the American people. It's what's good for Palantir. It's what's good for, you know, everybody outside of the normal American, right? That's like the elite, the political elite. They're all getting paid. They're all APAC. They're all, you know, afraid of not going in that direction as well. So yes, there's blackmail. Yes, there's bribery, but also everybody in the U.S. wants that to work because they're all going to benefit financially from the wars in the Middle East, or from a continuation of war in Ukraine, or escalating tensions around Venezuela, or escalating tensions around the South China Sea. And this is the difference between the Biden administration. One of the only differences I would say between the Biden administration and the Trump administration is it's like you have like oligarchs and you have corporations. And the corporationists, they want stability because of foreign investment, whereas the oligarchs, like more of the Trump administration, wants the chaos and wants the wars and wants to that's how that sort of group makes their money. So I when it comes to Venezuela, I would not be surprised in the slightest, but I do think that standing up to the United States, not negotiating, is the best way of going about business. The second you open your door, the second you begin to talk to them, is the second everything begins to unravel. And that's just my opinion and my advice to anybody talking to the United States. And I don't know why, and I've talked about this before, but there seems to be some sort of supremacist ideology within the political elite class, whether it's Eastern Europe or Southeast Asia or the Middle East. Particularly the Arabs seem to have this affinity where they think that they're somehow going to be Americans, or Ukrainians somehow think that you're going to be equal with Europeans, or Asian groups are going to somehow be on equal terms with the United States. That's not how this works. And I'm sorry, because you should all be respected equally. But in the eyes of, Western Europe and the United States, you're all just tools. That's all you are. You're just a tool, a means to an end. We don't care what happens to you. You're not our ally. You're not our friend. You are a puppet. You are a proxy. You are meat. That's what these nations are. That's what Ukraine is. And that's what all of these Arab nations are. We had that Arab summit where the Islamic Arab summit where Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, everybody came together to talk about how mean and angry Israel is being in the region. Like, oh, whoop-de-doo. And then they're talking about, different accords and different negotiations. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? You were just trying to negotiate with the United States, and they openly struck you utilizing Saudi Arabian airspace. Like, what are you talking about? This literally just happened to you. You cannot negotiate with the United States. It's the clearest takeaway from the past 5 years, at least, right? Operation Spiderweb, North Korean fishermen getting killed by a SEAL team during peace negotiations, the shit happening with China all the time during peace negotiations, striking Hamas in Tehran, striking Hamas in Qatar. The negotiating delegations, trying to disrupt negotiations any way you can through strikes on embassies or consulates, all sorts of different stuff. The U.S. just can't be negotiated with. We won't be negotiated with. It's not that we can't be, it's that we won't be. We won't allow it. We don't want to negotiate, because why would we? Every time we negotiate, we just do some crazy reckless shit and it works out for us and the other side folds. Right? We strike nuclear facilities and the world just says, oh, well, that happened. Oh, well, that just happened. And that's okay, I guess. Right? Why would we stop? Why would we? Who's going to stop us? Right? And then so when we're talking about the Venezuela situation, I think that they're approaching it the best way that they can, because negotiations, we all know how that's going to end. At least if you look tough, and you might persuade the enemy not to attack you at this current juncture because of the threat to, whatever, domestic stability in the United States. We don't want another war, stability in South America. I mean, if you have hundreds of different, militias down in the region causing utter chaos throughout Brazil, Colombia, if there's a large regional war, that's not really good for anybody besides, a few in the military industrial complex. But South America is not going to go along with that with the United States. So I think, like I said, I think the best option for Venezuela, just like the best option for Iran, is the nuclear option. Just immediately hit them with your biggest deterrence possible, and then posture like a motherfucker until they go away. That's my suggestion, because anything else is going to lead to ruin. If you negotiate with them, or if you just sit idly by and try to play the rules of the game like you're supposed to, like international law and stuff like that, the U.S. is just going to trample you. We're just going to run all up and down your street and shove it in your face and laugh about it. So stand your ground, guys. It's the only language we seem to understand around here. All right. How close is Siversk to being encircled and captured after Russia's Siversk forest breakthrough? I talked about that, but I can just talk about it really quick again if you missed it. Like I said, the forest has been entirely captured, which greatly increases the Russian ability to press Liman. I mean, this is gigantic, and it's pretty concealed. Logistics are decent through this area now that they have full control over it. So Liman is going to be under some serious pressure. Previously, it was just like Torsk getting pressured, a little bit of pressure up to the north, but nothing significant, like overly significant on this front. I mean, now you have the Russians almost pushing to the Oskil River. I mean, they're within, I think, 30 kilometers of it now. Much less, I'm sorry, like 15 kilometers of the bottom of the Oskil River and the estuary area, like right here. Like this is all weird floodplain area. So, there's a ton of pressure now in this section of the front. With Azov being rotated up to Kupiansk, you're going to see a ton of pressure in this area, and particularly here in Yampel in this area. If the Russians gain control over that, Siversk is going to be in a very, very difficult position, almost encircled. And I am expecting to see a lot of movement from the Siversk front here soon. Thank you for your question. All right. I have a thing on Gaza to talk about. Since we're talking about Israel, we can just go ahead and talk about that. So this is just sort of more about the U.S., but over Gaza. The U.S. cast sixth veto. Hold on, let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. The U.S. cast sixth veto at United Nations over war in Gaza. So the U.S. was one of the only nations to again veto a ceasefire in Gaza. And we will go ahead and read this. United Nations, September 18th. The United States has vetoed on Thursday a draft United Nations Security Council resolution that would have demanded an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. And that Israel lift all restrictions on aid deliveries to the Palestinian enclave. The text drafted by the elected 10 members of the 15-member council would have also demanded the immediate, dignified, and unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas and other groups. So both sides get what they should want, the release of the hostages and a ceasefire where aid is able to get in and prevent famine in the immediate region. And the U.S. we voted that down because that's what the international law loving United States of America does. We veto down things that end genocide and ethnic cleansing at our behest, with our bombs, with our planes, with our guns, with our trains. So this is expected, but it received 14 votes in favor. It was the sixth time the U.S. had cast a veto in the Security Council over the nearly 2-year war between Israel and Palestinian militants and Hamas. Famine has been confirmed in Gaza, not projected, not declared, confirmed. Denmark's UN ambassador Christine Marcus Larsen told the council before the vote. Honestly, though, the U.S. is the naysayer, is the bad guy here for sure. We're the one vetoing it down. But it's also kind of interesting that now all of a sudden Europe cares about Gaza after 2 fucking years. Hey, you guys could have been recognizing the Palestinian state and doing all that a year ago. And now, right as the offensive begins by the IDF into Gaza, now all of a sudden you guys care so much. It seems to me as though this is just all of these nations covering their own asses at this point. The U.S. just doesn't care to cover its ass because who's going to tell the U.S. anything? But yeah, it just seems like this is all the European countries going, hey, not our genocide. We're going to stand back over here and do all of our UN votes and make it, bad. But they're still trading. They're still using all of the Israeli technology. They just signed a huge technology bill with Microsoft and everything. So it's all just crocodile nonsense. Don't believe any of it. None of it's true. Other nations probably would have vetoed if it didn't mean that they were literally vetoing a genocide. If it was anything less than that, other nations would have vetoed. But it's to the point where you're either voting for a genocide or not voting for a genocide, and the U.S. just vetoed stopping a genocide. So that's pretty much the situation we're at. It's kind of terrible. We are committing a Holocaust, and that's what is happening right now. We are going to fully commit to allowing Israel to ethnically cleanse the entirety of Gaza. They're going to destroy every structure in that area. They're going to pave over the entire thing. And where are all those people going to go? Expect shootings, expect Israeli deaths, expect Jews to be targeted. It's going to get much, much worse for anybody of that ideology and anybody who is a Zionist supporter. I'm telling you, there is going to be massive repercussions from an entire group of people towards the Israelis, and it's going to extend further based on ideological lines, and it's really, really putting a lot of people in serious jeopardy. But that's what happens. That's what happens when you promote a genocide. It's hard to balance those two things, right? Like, you can't expect Nazis to be safe while conducting the Holocaust, can you? If a Jew guns down a Nazi in 1944, does anybody bat an eye because of what the context of the situation is? So it's unfortunate. And this is what I'm saying. It's just everything Israel is doing is putting people in danger. It's not protecting anybody. And they know that. They don't care. The ideology is just a means to an end. Scott, why don't we see map updates in Israel-Palestine war? Because that's not a war. There's no war there. It's just an occupation of a fucking broken city. War like the Russia-Ukraine war. And why is Israel taking so long to take the territory the size of Delaware? Good question. It's not that they're trying to take it. It's that they don't have enough bombs to literally bomb every single building into the dirt, which is what they're trying to do. That takes time. And they're doing a pretty good job. I think it's something like 90% of the structures in Gaza have been destroyed. So they're not doing too bad. It takes a long time for a very small nation to ethnically cleanse 2 million people out of a region, right? Especially when they're combative. So, that's just part of it. My guy Scott called this for what it is. Everyone is afraid to say genocide. Oh yeah, no, it's what it is. You're destroying a group of people in part or in whole through military actions. The starvation alone equals a genocide. The military operations alone equate to a genocide. The pushing the people out of their homes and forcing them into refugee camps, that's a genocide. That is mass displacement of a group or people in part or in whole because of who they are or what space they occupy, right? And it is by definition a genocide. If you want to disagree with that, that's fine. But it is what it is, right? It by definition, that's what it is. So, any estimate on when the Gaza war finishes? I don't know. I don't know what that means. What is the Gaza war? Do you mean the complete defeat of Hamas? Probably happens when there's no more Gaza in existence. Do you mean the complete defeat of the Palestinian people? That's going to happen after the entire region is ethnically cleansed, whether by forced removal or by murder. That I guess that's when that portion of it ends. When does the war in Gaza finish? I have a feeling that the war in Gaza, if you can call that a war, will extend indefinitely for the rest of Israeli existence. I think that you will see constant terror attacks. You're going to see displaced people from, it's hard to displace 2 million people and not have consequences for those actions. It's hard to kill hundreds of thousands of people, including tens of thousands of children, and not have extremely long and accentuating circumstances or consequences that do real damage over time. And like I said, they're going to use that again. They're going to say Israel is under attack. Look at Israel is under attack. But yeah, so I don't know if the war is ever really going to end in that regard. If you can call it a war, yeah, I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. Do you think Israel will make a move on Egypt? I think Israel will make all the moves that they want. I think you have a far right government in place that has the full support of its people, and that is a very, very dangerous thing. And I think that they're going to go very, very far with whatever they want to do. And part of that is greater Israel, right? So I think they're going to expand into southern Lebanon. I think they're going to expand into Syria. I think they're going to expand into Jordan. And I definitely think they were going to try to expand into Egypt. And it sounds ridiculous, but what if I told you that Hezbollah would be nothing and Gaza would be flattened and the Houthis would be damaged and Iran's nuclear facilities would be struck by the United States by this time this year? If I said that in 2023, would you have believed me? No, right? That sounds crazy. And now look at where we're sitting. Bashar is gone. Hezbollah is gone. Iran is in no position to do anything. And the Houthis are incredibly weakened. So, saying, oh, Egypt would never let that happen. Bullshit. Egypt would never let that happen. What do you mean? Syria would never let that happen. Lebanon would never let that happen. Iran would never let that happen. Right? Qatar would never let that happen. Bro, they're all just cucks in that region. That's what I was talking about with the Arabs. They think that they're superior and that somehow Americans are going to treat them as equals, and that just, you're an elite class in your country, so Americans must treat us with dignity and respect. Bro, people just have no comprehension of American culture, apparently, and like the American mindset and how we operate, our modus operandi. It's just crazy. It's crazy how much respect you give us, mostly out of fear, but it is wild how much respect we are given without earning it ever. And it's just, we're bullies, man. And if you don't treat us like bullies, you're going to get bullied like a motherfucker. So, yep. I'm not gonna pretend anymore. It's so stupid to pretend like we're we're trying to do anything good. It's completely ridiculous. All right, I'm gonna get into some of these statements by Trump with Keir Starmer, and then I think that is it. Let's see. What an Orwellian nightmare. I got to do comedy open mics. I don't know how to make this shit funny. Yeah, no, bro. It's tough. It's tough because it's so stupid and there's no class to it, right? If you I'm just saying, could you imagine if somebody got up there in front of you, not Trump, got up in front of you and gave you a well-crafted lie, that made America look proper and right in what they were doing, and it was justified, and we're doing it for this reason, and at least they have the dignity to treat you like a critically thinking human being who has any sort of sway in what their government does, right? At least create and provide the illusion that my feelings mean something on the matter, right? Because what we're getting right now is just shit shoveled down our throats, and we're expected to just accept it. Take the Charlie Kirk assassination, for example. Have you guys looked at the FBI reports and all of the inconsistencies? And it's like, if you guys are covering something up, can you at least do a good job of it? I mean, Jesus Christ, Kash Patel looks like he's shitting his pants 24/7. How is this guy in charge of the FBI? Like he seems to have no idea what's going on consistently. Maybe it's the perfect person to run the FBI because the incompetence just looks like expected because it's fucking Kash Patel. I don't know what, I can't wrap my brain around it, but at least lie to us good. At least make the lies complete and believable and sexy and, at least do something, because what we're getting right now is shit. It's just garbage. And it's just shoveled into our faces. And there's so much of it that we're expected to just I accept it, I guess. And we kind of just do. And it's very, very pathetic and very sad. And it gives me a lot of content to talk about. So whatever. All right, here we go. We're going to talk about this now. Okay, so Politico. Obviously, I don't read Politico for their accuracy. I also don't read it for their bias. They are extremely biased in their narratives and their writings. If you guys remember, Politico was the outlet that was recently talking about the U.S.'s policy shift towards the Western Hemisphere, which is fucking fantastic when you're talking about increasing sanctions on Russia, when you're talking about tariffing countries because of their purchase of Russian oil, when you're completing deals on selling billions of weapons to Ukraine through Europe, as you're pushing for your base in Afghanistan to be reestablished, which we haven't talked about that, but Donald Trump is talking about reestablishing control over the base in Afghanistan, which, does that mean we're going to make a deal with the fucking Taliban? What the fuck kind of inconsistency and narrative is that? First off, we just fought a 20-year war against them, but now we're going to make a deal to occupy a base because it's in our interests to watch China. It's a fucking joke. Here we go. For all their declarations of mutual admiration and close alignment, President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer were unable to maintain a united front on the war between Russia and Ukraine. So again, when you're reading this, you got to think to yourself, well, that's bullshit, because Britain does every single thing the United States asks them to do. So they are a united front. You're just seeing a facade of, disagreement. The two leaders both insisted that they wanted a ceasefire, but were at odds over the best way to pressure Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has in recent weeks amped up attacks on Ukraine and sent drones into NATO airspace. So two critical things here in this paragraph. First off, you have who has amped up attacks on Ukraine. No, he hasn't. The attacks have stayed consistent. I don't know what they're referring to. I mean, other than the natural escalation that we see in this conflict in general, I mean, more drones coming in. Is that what you mean by increased attacks? Because the drones have just been increasing as Russian production and supply has been increasing, right? You're going to see more drones as the Russian military industrial complex is producing more drones if there are targets in Ukraine. That's not really escalating. And there were no agreements to de-escalate. So to say he's escalating in a war, it's like, yeah, that's what a fucking war is. What are you talking about? And then the next thing is, and sent drones into NATO airspace. And this right here is a major fucking red flag for me. This is, you have to be very, very careful, because this makes me now think that Ukraine or NATO had something to do with the decoy drones that entered into Polish airspace. Either they were jammed and were forced to continue on a straight trajectory, whether they were launched by Ukraine, or whether they are just hyping it up and turning this into an information warfare campaign. This does, the drones into Polish airspace does not suit Russia. It does not test NATO air defense. That's gay and stupid. That doesn't make any sense. You test an air defense network when it's ready for you. That's where you figure out where the weaknesses are and so on and so forth. And you don't use, 12 recon drones to do that. You use a lot more drones and you actually test their air defense. It's not a very good test of NATO air defense along the border, really, in my personal opinion. So the huge red flag. That should be a huge red flag. The second aside starts using an event that recently happened, and it was a weird event out of the blue, to their advantage as soon as they're talking about how they're going to proceed with the war in Ukraine. Red flag. That should be just an immediate red flag for you. Something is happening here. Why isn't Russia benefiting from Russia's actions? Red flag. Huge red flag, right? That should be the immediate thought. Scott, word up, joined late. Later, thanks as always. Rewind later, thanks. Oh yeah, take care, brother. I'm glad you got in here. Sorry you missed the start of it, but I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you guys for your super chats today. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. All right. Sorry. Lost my train of thought. Let's keep reading. Trump, during a joint press conference outside London on Tuesday, told reporters that he remains disappointed in Putin, but evaded multiple questions about what he planned to do next. So this is particularly interesting because what do you mean you're disappointed? Putin did something that I can't believe he actually did. I mean, I think it's good that he, from a Russian perspective, that he was invited to the United States. He stepped on U.S. territory. It's kind of a major step back in the whole, he's a Hitler-esque figure, this, that, or the other. You don't really meet with Hitler-esque figures. So I think that was very good. But they had, it seemed like a decent understanding and agreement about what both sides wanted. And then Europe and Zelensky came out and just completely shut that shit down. So he says he's disappointed in Putin, but really, I think what he should be disappointed in is the Ukrainians and the Europeans who did exactly what he wanted them to do and didn't go along with the agreements on how to end the conflict. Trump he really let me down, in quotes, Trump said of Putin before pivoting to the 7 wars he's worked out. Yeah, that war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Albania, not Armenia. That would be right. Albania. Starmer, who said Trump has always led the way in trying to end the war in Ukraine, was far firmer about the need for increasing economic pressures on Moscow and blunt in pointing out that Putin has ramped up his attacks on Ukraine after the summit with Trump that last month. Keir Starmer, how you could increase that economic pressure on you, Russia? Stop buying Russian oil through India. Oh, wait, you can't, right? Because U.S. oil is way too expensive to be your primary supply. So you have to buy Russian gas at a premium and Russian oil at a premium through India. So, it doesn't really make sense. You're talking about putting economic pressure on Russia. What do you want them to do exactly? The only 2 pressure points that remain are to completely isolate India, who is the primary refinery country for Russian gas and oil, or China, who is the primary purchaser of direct purchaser of Russian, materials and energy. And you can't do either of those. And particularly from a European standpoint, if you're going to go against China like that, Europe is going to die. Europe is going to die if they go against China like that. So this is all just theater. This is all just bluster. There's no actual impact to what's being said. You can basically just ignore it all, right? Just look at who's selling weapons to who, look at who's benefiting from who. But all of these words, all of this pretend strife and conflict between allies is just bullshit. And it's just to distract you from, what's actually happening in the events that are really happening in front of us. All right. All right, guys. Other than that, I just wanted to talk about this because I told you it wasn't done. This is going to continue, and this is going to be a consistent thing throughout Southeast Asia. So Thailand, Cambodia ceasefire is fragile. Is fragile bandage over a long festering wound. While the war in Southeast Asia stopped 7 weeks ago, tensions are still simmering, and it appears to be a matter of when, not if, full-scale violence erupts again. So this is exactly what I'm saying, guys. The entire Southeast Asian region, since the U.S. has pivoted, is now erupting with political violence and violence between nation states. And it's only going to get worse. And I'm telling you, get ready for the Chinese, Filipino, conflict in the South China Sea. This is that is what is coming. It is going to be the next thing, but just in general, you are going to see consistent pressure around the entirety of China in the South China Sea and in Southeast Asia as a means to overextend them in their own region and keep them bogged down and prevent them from expanding, right? This is exactly what we saw with Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, around Russia, Baltics, same thing. We saw attempts in Belarus to do the same thing, just cause as much chaos around the nation you're trying to bog down and eventually force regime change in. So we'll read this a little bit and then we'll get into it. It is 7 weeks since the firing stopped and the dead and injured were carried away, but the borderlands of Thailand and Cambodia are still charged with tensions and violence. Asia's newest and most unpredictable conflict flared up again on Thursday in Kasual field outside a tiny Cambodian village called Pre Chan. On one side, where a few hundred Thai soldiers and police armed with guns and riot equipment intent on laying out razor wire to mark their territory, resisting them, where a dozen unarmed Cambodian soldiers and 200 or so villagers carrying tree branches. The one-sided fight ended predictably with tear gas volleys, rubber bullets, and bruised and bleeding Cambodians. So again, I told you it's not over. You are going to see continued violence in Southeast Asia and then in the South China Sea. And this is all promoted by Western NGOs and, the United States. We want chaos around China. We want chaos in Korea. We want chaos in Thailand. We want chaos in the Philippines. We want chaos in Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar, Nepal. As we've seen with the riots around in Nepal, guys, this is exactly what we talked about. This is the U.S. pivot to China, and it's just going to be chaos and death. Okay? Good enough? Good enough for government work? I think we're done. I think that's it for the stream today, boys. If you guys have some questions, go ahead and get something in, but I'm done talking about everything I had to talk about. Let's see. Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. Thank you for stopping in, Barry. I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate everybody who dropped in today. Scott, is Russian going for Odessa and will it be amphibious? It seems to me like that is the eventual Russian goal. But it will not be an amphibious landing. I mean, unless the Ukrainian military is at a point where they're not able to prevent an amphibious landing. You're not going to see an amphibious landing in a combative manner. That would be a disaster. Is it possible for Russia, China, or Iran to do intelligence operations in Israel? Probably not. Israel's a very small place, very controlled. I'm sure that they do have intelligence operations in Israel and in every country around the world, but I bet that Israel is one of those places where it is incredibly difficult to do intelligence operations. Russia claims that they took Markove north of Chasiv Yar. AMK is also saying that Shandalove is mostly captured now. Yes, I agree. We just haven't got a geolocation for Shandalove yet. And then north of Chasiv Yar, they're saying Markove has been captured, which would be a pretty big advance in that region. I haven't seen anything of the sort yet, so I'll let you guys know if it happens. You'll hear from me first. Iran will succeed in the diplomatic option. Yeah, sure. I'm sure we're all of a sudden now just going to be super on board with, diplomacy with Iran. You missed it should be continuity. That's funny. Oh man. It's like they used to serve us MK Ultra, and now they're scraping the bottom for ZK subprime. Yeah, we're getting the fucking AAA mortgages in 2007 of we're getting the AAA mortgage version of the propaganda boat. Yeah, it sucks. It like you wish that you would hope that if you were going to get lied to, that at least the lies would be of some sort of quality, because the lies that we're getting are really piss poor and suck. I want a good lie, like, propagandize to me. Put some money and effort into it. The internet just makes it so difficult because we have so much open source information available to us. In the 60s, you had one film of JFK getting shot. Could you imagine if JFK got shot today with all the cell phones? People would be like, there would be 90 different angles. You would have seen some movement on the grassy knoll in one of the videos, would have raised some suspicions. You would have literally seen the guy get up in the tower and leave after he took the shot. The whole JFK assassination would be a completely different thing if we had phones. So part of it, I'm sure, is that lies are a lot harder to maintain when there's thousands of cameras everywhere. Like, how are you supposed to cover for somebody getting away from an assassination when you have video footage of exactly where they went and exactly where they ran off to? And I don't know if you guys have seen the text messages between the shooter and his transgender boyfriend, girlfriend. That shit is, why not hire me to go and make those text messages fake? Hey, Israel, if you want me to stop talking bad about you, offer me a $200,000 dollar a year job where I get to write the backstories for your assassinations and your fucking plots. Like, come on, guys. This is ridiculous. Apparently he disassembled the rifle on the roof, changed his clothes, jumped off the roof, and then hid the rifle in the woods, went to his vehicle, but then also stayed in the area and tried to recover his rifle. And he used the word retrieve when he was talking to his boyfriend about going and getting the rifle. It's just craziness, dude. It's like, hey, make it easier. Just make it easy. Just leave the rifle on the roof, get out of there. Why make it so complicated? And it's like they didn't have a good story, and then they tried to cover their own tracks, and in covering their own tracks made 1,000 plot holes and inconsistencies. And now they're trying to save that by releasing these text messages, which perfectly fill in every single hole that the FBI had created. And they use language that no 22-year-old has ever used in the history of 22-year-olds, unless you're literally a cop. So, yeah, to say the least, it was incredibly odd. I'm not going to say who done it, who did whatever. I don't know. There's not enough information out there to point in a specific direction. Obviously, all of the Israeli pressure and all of the billionaire pressure on Charlie Kirk is extremely suspicious. I've already told you guys what I think. But again, we don't have the evidence to say they done it. We just have a bunch of wild inconsistencies in the story that makes everything dicey and almost unapproachable. AI wrote the script, literally. It is atrocious. Also, technocracy through, just another digital ID coin from, oh wait. Mossad is slacking. No, it's not Mossad. Mossad isn't slacking. Mossad did exactly what they needed to do. They got the shooter on the roof. They got the shooter to take the shot. Whether it's the same shooter or a different shooter, I don't know. It could definitely be the same individual, but it's the FBI that you should be concerned about. The lackey got away for like a day. He drove like 200 miles back to his house. Dude, like what? Like what? The only reason they caught him is because his dad turned him in. Huh? It's not Mossad. Mossad did their job. The FBI didn't do their job in the publicity side of it. Hey, Nick Fuentes said that that's just anti-Semitic conspiracy stuff. Yeah, which by the way, bro, what? This dude thinks the Jews are responsible for everything, but then the assassination of somebody who is being pressured and clearly changing his opinion on the Israeli question, upsetting donors, pressure from all over the place. But yeah, no, now Israel isn't responsible. I think what Nick is doing, to be honest, I think Nick is in a weird place where he is also being looked at for the potential assassination, as you know, the assassin could have been a Groiper, not that he was, but I think that is also kind of playing into this, where Nick is on the defensive and he's just defending and attacking sort of everybody. And I don't get it. It seems very inconsistent with his own position for the last 3 years, where he talks about Israel being the root cause of almost every issue that the U.S. faces. Even the transgenderism in the United States is, at least this is what they say, is promoted by the Israel and, these billionaires and these tech companies and everything. They're all pushing this alternative gender theory and all this stuff. So if the assassin was a transgendered individual, wouldn't that still be somehow because of Israel in some greater, I don't know. It is very weird that he got like that. It does seem like he got the call. I don't think he did. And also you just have to remember that he is just a 26-year-old kid, just like I'm a 27-year-old kid. Like, our brains are not as experienced. We don't have the clearest thinking, and you've put a person who is very young into a position of extreme power, where he has a huge following. He has a massive political sway. I mean, he's getting 200,000 viewers on live stream Rumble. That's crazy. Like, that's wild. So he does have a lot of pressure on him, and I would not look at individual actions as oh, he got the call, or he's been corrupted, or whatever. I don't know. I don't watch Nick Fuentes that much, but yeah. Scott, do you not fear free speech is even closer to being toast based off of Antifa? Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this. Trump just makes Antifa a terrorist organization, which, by the way, hey, you know what you get to do to terrorists? Extrajudiciously kill them. We consider cartels terrorists, and look at what we're doing to them in international waters. So I have a huge issue with the president considering a group inside of the United States a terrorist organization, because as soon as you have a terror organization operating within your borders, anybody you want to be a terrorist is now a terrorist. This is Orwellian. This is horrific. And whether you think it's necessary or not, say it prevents an assassination. That's great. But what if it's used 20 different ways to incriminate, arrest people, take their property away, illegally search and seize their property? This is a huge red flag. Everybody should be very concerned. This is what tyrants do. This is what dictators do. And they use terrorist organization designations for their own means, right? The guys on Ruby Ridge were terrorists. The guys in Waco were terrorists, right? The students at Kent State were acting in a very terroristic manner, right? You got to be careful, because it's a very slippery slope, and people don't understand slippery slopes, or they ignore them because they confirm their bias or work towards their direction. Guys, remember, the next administration might not be a Republican one. If you are a Trump guy or a Republican guy and you think that this designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization is a good thing, remember, the next administration that gets in will consider your organization to be terrorists. So don't set the precedent and then allow it to be used, because it will be used against you next. You are next. Is Scott saying he's stupid? I always say I'm stupid. What are you talking about? I consistently say, don't listen to me. I'm organically retarded. I think it's a great idea. The only way to hold the vault of exchanges accountable by putting the gold on the blockchain with QR codes. AMK claims Ukrainians have been encircled near Shivneve. Yeah, I did see that. I think he's sort of working off of old information. I don't think the Ukrainians are still encircled. There's not a lot of territory for them to be encircled in, and they've been in that position for a long time. So he said like 4 days ago there was Ukrainians trapped in this area. I don't exactly know. He's working off satellite information. I don't know if he's just talking about strikes in the area, but I can't imagine that there's anybody still there. That's very deep behind Russian lines. If you see the size of super chats of Nick's, it makes sense. That's a lot of money to forsake. Yeah, it is. It is, and that's another problem. Is like people get like, and not that he is like this, but I've seen this with other people where they're so tied to their audience. Guys, I'm not gonna lie. I love you and I love the support, but if you turn against me because of one of my opinions, I will crucify you. I will destroy you. Like I don't hold my opinions for no reason. I'm very set and my heels are in the dirt and I'm willing to listen and change my mind. But when I have an idea and I've thought through it consistently and regularly and I've come to the same conclusion over and over again, I'm going to disagree even if you are my fans. Even if you are giving me money, I will tell you that you are wrong. So I don't know. I've never cared about the money in that way. In that, like I said, if you guys never super chatted, I would still be on here doing this. If nobody was in here watching except 4 people, but those 4 people were getting good information and they enjoyed it, I would still be doing this. So yeah, I get that the money for some people might come into play. I don't know. I've always been very happy being just not poor, and that's fine for me. Being able to afford food and my house and do the things that I love to do are much more important than money to me, or driving some nice car or something like that. So dictator or dictator? That's the key. The pendulum always swings back. Yeah, no, it's just like people just have no real sense of clapback. I don't know what the deal is with people. It's like they live in a world where nobody can punch them in the face. And that's crazy to me. Where, you think that because you're doing something, there's going to be no equal and opposite reaction is a foolish position to take in anything, let alone stomping out voices and committing political violence or killing people based off of a terrorist designation. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like if an Antifa place gets raided and there's a shootout and American citizens die that had committed no real crime, that's a major issue. If you get a situation where U.S. citizens are dying because the government is crossing the constitutional rights that they have because they're labeled a terrorist or designated a terrorist, that's a huge, huge issue. And that's not to say that there isn't a legitimate use of a terrorist designation. I mean, you can't have a legitimate terrorist cell in your nation that wants to cause you harm, but that's not what this is going to be. That's really not what this is going to be. I doubt they're going to do anything to actually prevent the assassinations, because the guy was openly talking about it on the internet. If you have all the algorithms, if you have all the, Palantir inside of every fucking computer, and you're able to read all of my text messages and algorithmically show who's going to be a threat to who and who's on what sketchy websites and what backroom Reddit nonsense is happening and all that. I mean, they should have been able to stop him, right? But they didn't. And they're not going to use that technology to prevent assassinations in the future, especially when the Trump administration is one of the groups that's benefiting the most from this violence, right? I mean, you can't say that Trump isn't benefiting when he's directly utilizing it to his advantage. It's what's happening. I don't necessarily agree on your take with Antifa and terrorism. The left started this war, however. Yeah, no, and I'm going to just go ahead and tell you the exact same thing. You're falling in, or I'm going to tell you something that I said last time. You're falling into the trap that is designed for you. You're doing a very good job, right? There's political violence on both sides. I mean, the right just went and executed those two Minnesota, I think it was Minnesota, Democratic politicians, right? I mean, there's violence on both sides. So no, nobody started a war. You have one deranged schizo kid, if he did take the shot, if we're just going to go with the story, that took it upon himself to assassinate somebody based off of language, right? So just at the if you're just taking it at face value, it's not a organization of terrorism. It's not terrorism against any particular group. It is an individual carrying out a violent act against another individual based off of words. So no, you recognizing them as a terrorist organization is only going to do one thing. It's only going to rip away your rights. I don't understand what people don't get about this. You are losing your own rights, and they're just disguising it and utilizing your fear and your anger and your emotion against you. It's the same thing that happened with 9/11. Did the Patriot Act do anything to protect Americans at all? Did it do anything? No, they utilized the Patriot Act to take away your freedoms. You sacrificed your security or your freedoms for security. That's that. You never do that. You never sacrifice your freedoms for security, ever. You don't do that. And that is what you are doing when you say, I don't agree with you on this. You might not agree with me. You might think that it's good that they're being taken care of, and it might be a good thing in the end result. I'm not saying I'm absolutely correct in this, but what I am saying is the next government that gets into position, the next administration that gets into this position will now have a precedent where they can label anybody who commits a violent act a terrorist within a terrorist organization, and people who have not committed crimes but are maybe affiliated even loosely with that. What are you talking about? That is not a good thing. You do not want your government labeling its own citizens terrorists. I'm sorry, but that is a delusional, terrible take. You do not want that because you are the next terrorist. I am the next terrorist for my words, right? If the government is owned by and controlled by Israel, and I say things that Israel doesn't like, I'm now a terrorist. That's not okay. That's not how that should work. So no, I do not think that labeling Antifa as a terrorist organization is a good idea. That is a very loose description and can be used however a tyrant wants to use it. So no, I'm going to harshly disagree with you on that. Yeah, and the irony is that the massive push to crack down on the left is radicalizing that left even more. And this is exactly what they want. They want the right radicalized. They want the left radicalized. They want us fighting with each other because they can just keep fucking us while we fight each other. While we're concerned about the left and the left is concerned about the right, the people on the top just sit on us all and crush us down, and we get smaller and weaker and more controlled. Sound like a commie again. We must seize the means of production. That's not what I'm saying, but you get it, right? They're just eating your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're letting them. That's what it is. Again, no YouTube notification for the start of the show. Do you have your bell on? I'm telling you guys, I think I'm getting suppressed. I think my Twitter's getting suppressed. I think my YouTube's getting suppressed. My views have been way down. And then people telling me stuff like this. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying my best. There's nothing stopping the next administration from establishing the precedent regardless. Oh, no. This is not okay. Besides, they can call anyone they don't want fascist already. Yeah, no, this is not an art. This is like almost like an argument from, this is like an Israeli argument to say, oh, they're going to kill us eventually, so we're just going to kill them now. That is not how that works. And the Trump administration is setting the precedent, by the way. They are setting the precedent. So no, you do not get to do apology stuff for your side just because you think the Democrats would do it next time. Even if they would do it next time, that does not give you an excuse to set the precedent and do the bad thing before the other side does the bad thing. That's just not how morality works, I guess. You don't get to go, oh, well, I'm going to do it before because they're going to do it eventually anyway. That's a really, really, really bad thing to start doing. It's a really, really bad thing to start doing. That's like how little kids think. And that's very dangerous. It's greedy. It's selfish. Just try not to think like that if you can. Going full communist, I guess. If not wanting the elites to completely screw me over 24/7 makes me a communist, then yeah, I might be a communist. They shouldn't be allowed to call everybody Nazis, racists, white supremacists. Why? Why shouldn't they be able to call anybody that? I don't get why you want to control other people's speech. Who cares if they call you that? The more they call you that, the less that even means. Right? Are you saying they can't call people that because it's going to call people to violence? You don't, I mean, unless you're directly calling to violence. You guys, you do not get to tread on free speech. You do not get to do that. That is like a key principle in the United States. And it's in our Constitution. You are not allowed to tread on free speech unless that free speech calls somebody to violence. And you can say calling somebody Hitler is calling somebody to violence, but I should be able to call somebody a communist piece of shit if they're a communist piece of shit. I should be able to call somebody a Nazi if they are a Nazi. The Ukrainian Banderites that wear patches and slaughter Ukrainian civilians because they're Russian speaking, I get to call those people Nazis. That's my right as an American. That is my right as under the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. Everybody has the right to call me whatever the fuck they want to call me. You do not get to tell me what I get to say about you, and I do not get to control what you say about me. It's up to everybody around you to be logical, smart, and not completely room temperature IQ to know that what they're saying is not true. Right? It's the marketplace of ideas. The bad ideas get shuffled to the bottom and they get covered in shit. The good ideas rise to the top and people come in and listen to your live streams. That's how it works. They should be allowed to call whoever they want to call white supremacists and Nazis and whatever. If it's defamation, sue them. Right? If it's an outright lie and it's hurting you, sue them. That's what defamation law is about. Kyle Rittenhouse got how much money from CNN? Sued him. You're allowed to say whatever you want. I'm sorry. And if that offends people, if that makes people upset, then you have a direct issue with me because I use my freedom of speech 24/7. I call out everybody and anybody I want all the time. Charlie Kirk was using his free speech to say things that people did not like on campus. He was talking about transgender issues. He said he was legitimately dehumanizing people in their eyes, right? I don't believe that. I don't think that that's how the talks work, right? But speech is violent sometimes. Everything is violence, right? To some degree or another. It just depends on what level of violence you look at it in, right? But speech is, especially debate speech, is going to be violent, and people are going to take that in whatever way they want. That does not mean you get to control their speech. That does not mean you get to control my speech. And specifically, the government does not get to decide which speech is okay and which speech is not okay. That's the biggest crux of the issue. The government does not get to decide what I say and when I say it. And that's what any of this would mean. If you're trying to control speech, it has to come from a forceful entity, right? It has to come from the police. It has to come from the courts. It has to come from the government or the military. Right? And I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. So no. No. They should be allowed to say whatever they want to say. And if it's defamation, you can sue them for it. I hit the bell. Thank you, Achilles. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that people aren't being notified. That sucks. I haven't seen a video from you in a month. Fuck, dude. Fuck. I gotta figure out what's going on. Probably should. Can I get a call? Can somebody call me so I can get my viewership back? I've lost all my sponsors too, guys. It's bad. My sponsorship numbers are way down. You either have free speech for speech you don't like, or you don't have free speech. It's not complicated. Exactly. Maybe I am a communist. I'm agreeing with Clown a lot. There's a lot of agreeing going on in here. Oh, thank you, Gonzo. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. What if calling somebody a Nazi gets that somebody killed? Well, then you have to approach the crime in the way that you approach the crime. Did the person say, hey, somebody needs to go out and kill this Nazi? That's a call to violence. That person should be held responsible for the crime. Did somebody say Charlie Kirk is a Nazi for saying transgender people aren't people? Right? Like, I mean, it's like, what are you going to tell me that I'm not allowed to call somebody a Zionist? Are you allowed to say that? Are you allowed to tell me what I'm allowed to say? Whether it's true or not? No. So if it's a call to violence, they should be held responsible. If it's just political heat, this is what happens in politics, dude. People get assassinated. And I know it's not something that should happen, but it's also funny that people have no comprehension of what happens in other countries all the time, consistently. This happens regularly all over the world. We're just in a very sheltered environment, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing that people aren't being assassinated for their viewpoints and what they say. Well, they are now, but so no, you should not be responsible for somebody else's actions. I did not go out and murder those Jewish diplomats just because or those Israeli diplomats, just because I am saying things negative about Israel does not make me responsible or in group with somebody who commits murder. Sorry. That's not how it works. What is the situation on the Dopopila front? Stable. Don't listen to the Ukrainian sources. They're saying that there's like 9 Russian encirclements in that area. That's not happening. Don't listen to that. It's just the same thing that's been happening for the last month. Nothing particularly exciting one way or the other. Not a lot of change. I agree with you in principle, but pragmatically, I don't know if that's sustainable. I think it's sustainable. Yeah, I mean, you might be right, but I would rather live in a chaotic hellscape of free speech than a Orwellian world where everything is controlled. Sorry. That's me personally. Question. From an outside observer's perspective, the average American conservative is less prone to violence than the average leftist. Is this really, or is this reality or just an illusion? I think that in terms of, I think that there's different ways to think about violence. I think that, yes, at least as of lately, it does appear that the left is more willing to use violence. However, the right is far more capable of violence. So I would say that you have individual actors in the left who are spurred to violence in a way that is far more dramatic than people in the right are. But I think that what you're about to see is the right get pushed to a place where they're going to start acting extremely violently. So I think right now, from at least a anecdotal perspective, yes, the left is more violent and more willing to do things like assassinate people. But I think that the right, once it gets pushed, is going to be far more capable and able to commit violent acts. So we'll see. Yep, free speech is first. Don't lose your rights. Because the second you guys give up your freedom of speech for security is the second you lose. And it's and in 20 years, you're not going to get your freedom of speech back and reduce your security. You think the government is going to give you your rights back? Get fucked. Oh, you got a message. So only some people aren't getting messages. You must be an anti-Semite, my friend. You must be a Russian shill if you're getting my bell. Maybe in a capitalist society, people don't value free speech when it's labeled free. Haha! I see what you did there. Play on words. You got to pay for it to be worth something. I only got love for your rants. I appreciate it, brother. What if crossing the road gets you killed? Exactly. Am I supposed to fucking go after the people that paved the road or built the car or agreed that the road should have been there in the first place, or said that I was a bad guy and then I walked out into the road because they said that? You know, not saying that that's not applicable to what's happening now, but I'm just saying that's kind of like the same thing. Is just don't give up your free speech, guys. It's never going to be worth it ever. Yes, Benjamin Franklin, the classic quote: "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." That's exactly right. Never give up freedoms for security. Your government will try to scare you. Other governments will try to scare you. Terrorist groups will use fear to scare you into giving up your rights. Don't allow it to happen. The only people who win are the government, and you don't want the government to win. Calibrated. Why is no one actually willing to do something about the U.S. government, domestically speaking? Because we can't. What are we supposed to do? I don't think you guys quite understand how weak citizens of countries are now, and how difficult it is to actually force change. We have an illusion of a democracy here. We don't even get to decide who we vote for. We get to choose between a uniparty system. Do you want the blue ones or do you want the red ones? The trick is they're both made out of sugar and they're no different. The only difference is the illusion that your brain creates when you eat the blue one or you eat the red one, right? There's no difference. They all support the same foreign policy. They really could not give a shit about domestic policy outside of maintaining popularity in their base. The only reason, if you want to talk about Charlie Kirk changing his opinion on Israel, he might have been a smart guy, and I'm sure he knew all of this way before. Charlie Kirk shilled for Israel because Charlie Kirk's donors we're Israeli and we're billionaires and that support that, and they're Zionists. And TPUSA was hugely funded by Zionist entities. And so, you know, when we're talking about reasons why he might have gotten assassinated, because he's turning against those ideas, you know, but it's not because of what he wants. It's because he can read the fucking room. And that's what happens to politicians too, is they will do whatever they want until they're not allowed to do whatever they want. And that's what Charlie Kirk was doing. Charlie Kirk was running with the Israeli narrative for as long as he could, because that's where his money came from. And as soon as all of his supporters, everybody in his demographic started saying, hey, what the hell is going on with Israel? We don't like this anymore. He then began to shift his opinion. That's what it is. So yeah, there's nobody's going to be able to do anything about the U.S. government. I'm sorry. The only thing that's going to happen, the only thing that's going to be able to change the U.S. government is economic ruin. As soon as the economy crashes and things are forced to change, that's when things might change for the better. But until then, no, we're living in a illusion. Brian Berletic doesn't allow free speech on his Twitter. Twitter is not about free speech. Twitter has no right to maintain your free speech. Brian is in Thailand, so it doesn't even follow U.S. like constitutional law. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Twitter is not a place for free speech. Anybody can block whoever they want. It's a private company, and you cannot allow comments on your thing because a lot of you have very, very stupid comments that you make about things all the time. And Brian doesn't want to read that. And I understand. I deal with NAFO all day, and I don't want to read fucking terrible hot takes constantly. I blocked David on Twitter for that specifically. And he's been doing nothing but commenting in my comments. And I can just see it. It says muted, and I don't click on it. And it makes me feel so good about myself. So no, Brian can do whatever he wants on his Twitter. Twitter is not free speech. Sorry. Unfortunately. I was unsubscribed by YouTube a few times. At first, I thought Scott slowed down, so I checked, found out I wasn't subscribed anymore. Now I regularly check. Funny thing is, it's only some subjects. Yeah, cool. Great. I might end up moving over to Kick here soon as well, or Rumble. Do those as well. It's just it doesn't work with StreamYard, so I got to figure out DCS or something. If you had to choose, would you want to live in Germany or Russia? Right now? Ooh. I mean, Russia is not more free than Germany. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not. I just feel like if I'm in Russia, I will get ignored more easily than if I'm in Germany. I feel like if I'm in Russia, I can go to some village somewhere out of the way and nobody would ever bother me ever again. I feel like if I was in Germany, I would get bothered eventually, especially for what I talk about, for sure. So I don't think so much in Russia. Because if I was in Germany, I couldn't just sit by while the AFD were getting assassinated and taken out of play. Like, I would be on here talking about that consistently. I'd be like, we need a stronger Germany. And then I would get in a lot of trouble. So angry mustache man mode. And then I get instantly arrested in Germany. He's obsessed with you, bro. Yeah, David. He's literally begging for my attention. It's crazy. It's insane. And I think it's because he kind of like, he's just not going anywhere and nothing's going good for him. He's in fantasy land. He is in a separate alternate reality that is backed up by no evidence. It's insane. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that his grand illusion has engulfed his entire world. And now that he just lives in a separate, divided reality. It's where he needs to be. I think that's where David needs to stay, is in a separate reality from me. I agree. NAFO, I don't block them, but man, they are dumb and annoying. Yeah, they're retarded. Yeah, Germany literally has no future. That's a good thing. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about it purely from a selfish standpoint. But yeah, I don't want to be in Germany. I don't want to be paying that much for gas and stuff, please. Let's see. To add on to the last question, is the only way for the government to fall is to crack from all the money printing, foreign policy, internal. Yeah. I mean, eventually you're going to get to a point where we're either going to get into a war and we're not going to come out on the right end of it, or something's going to happen like the 2008 housing market crash. The indicators are exactly the same as that crash right now. So yeah, we're just on a bubble and it's going to pop eventually. And when that bubble pops, it's either going to come to a head in that we're going to have to go into a war to shift our economy, or we're going to recede. And that's going to be very bad. I mean, a war is terrible, but a recession is going to be even worse for the U.S. position geostrategically. Will the Russians cross the Siversk now and take the Siversk from the north? Yes, that's a very big possibility. I don't really necessarily know if they're going to cross it, but they're going to advance along the south now that the north of the river has been completely captured by Russian forces. Yeah. Barry, he's right, but he doesn't allow criticism. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. You can say that, but you don't have an option to allow certain criticisms, legitimate criticisms and non-legitimate criticisms, right? And also Brian doesn't use, I think you're talking about Brian doesn't use Twitter like other people use Twitter. He uses it just to get his articles out. And if you don't want to see a bunch of dumb racists fighting in your comment section, then you just have to ban all comments. You don't get to leave up legitimate criticisms. And then, that's not how Twitter works. It doesn't have an algorithm for legitimate criticisms versus shitty troll comment. So yeah. Yes. Talking about Brian. Yeah. Brian Berletic of the New Atlas, which, by the way, go out and check out his work. He does a lot of research and does great videos, and I'm hoping to have him on later this week. So everybody, I'm going to wrap it up there. Oh my God, it's been an hour and 42 minutes. Holy shit. Have a fantastic weekend. I may do an episode this weekend. It just depends, guys, if news comes out. I didn't expect to have really that much to talk about today, and I went for an hour and 42 minutes. So I've been very much enjoying these more relaxed, longer streams. I think I'm going to start doing them more consistently. I just like coming in here and talking. It helps me organize and sort my ideas. And be on the lookout for those separate videos just on my page. Ukraine map updates, full Ukraine map updates will now be in separate videos. Thank you all so much for your super chats and your questions today. Thank you to the entirety of the chat for keeping it moving and keeping me talking. Really, you guys keep me talking with your questions. So I really appreciate that. Take care, be safe, and I will see you on the next episode of Casual Calibration. Take care, everyone. Okay, just misclicking.